me. You are listening to PT on Ice, the Older Adult, a collaboration between the Senior Rehab Project and the Institute of Clinical Excellence. This is a rebroadcast of an original episode that can be found at ptonice.com. All right. Good morning, folks. We are live. My name is Dustin Jones. I am a co-faculty member with the Institute of Clinical Excellence with the Older Adult Division. I teach modern management of the older adult with my partner in crime, Christina Previtt. We're coming live from Facebook right now, like we normally do, live from Instagram as well. And then hello to all the podcast listeners as well. So today I wanted to just take the time to kind of recap a pretty crazy weekend that I just had. I was up. Jason Robinson, good morning, sir. I was up in Cleveland, Ohio, and took my CrossFit Level 1 course, the 2-day seminar. I just wanted to give my thoughts on that, my honest, critiques, and just kind of the things that I was thinking about that weekend. Jason Robinson, who's watching right now, recently took his L1 as well, and we've been kind of chatting back and forth on how we're really impressed with this weekend seminar. So I think first off, I should probably start with some definitions. I think that was one of the eye-opening things about this weekend is my perceptions of this organization and what they do is very different from what is actually happening or what they're teaching, I should at least say. So some definitions. So CrossFit is constantly varied, high-intensity functional movement, plain and simple. That's all it is. It's not rhabdo, it's not Pukey the Clown, it's not, people with their shirts off making sweat angels after a workout. It's constantly varied, high-intensity functional movement at its core. CrossFit's goal is to create fitness, and they have defined fitness as work capacity across broad times and modal domains. So this is not trying to pursue high performance in one particular area, but they want to be general. They say their specialty is to not specialize. So they want to increase work capacity across broad times and modal domains. Now, health just expands from fitness to where health is work capacity across broad times and modal domains across the lifespan. So that's CrossFit, that's fitness, and that's health. And they do a wonderful job at kind of laying that out and describing that, and lots of counter arguments that they present even in their own material to some of those definitions. But it was really interesting to read, and those lectures were really good. And I want to encourage y'all to read some of the articles. They're all found in the L1 guide, which I believe is a free PDF that you can find on their website. So you don't have to sign up for the course to get some of this material, but I encourage you to read kind of that first probably I think 20, 30 pages of that guide where it talks a lot about the methodology, and it'll help you see like, oh, this is what they're actually doing. This is what they're about. Here's the intended stimulus of what they're trying to achieve. So those are some definitions. Now, what I really enjoyed, I'll just go through a couple things and then give my critiques, was the presentation of the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. So you all probably heard some of us talk about this on the podcast, but just to lay it out again, the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. So let's say over here you've got sickness, and in the middle you've got wellness, and on this end you have fitness. Every kind of biological marker, every lab value, every functional measure that we do, we could lay on this continuum and be able to say if someone is sick, if they are well, or if they are fit. So you can take blood pressure, you can take blood sugar levels, you can take a timed up and go time, or maybe even your time with the workout Fran, for example, and lay it on that continuum, and you'll be able to see where they are on that. And that is a theoretical model that I find very, very helpful, because if you think about your role as a physical therapist, what we're often doing is moving people from a state of sickness. So let's say, they have a slow walking speed, for example, due to whatever ailment or impairment that you decide is contributing to that. And we give them physical therapy, we work with them, and we may get, their gait speed back up to a functional norm. And a lot of times that's pretty good, and we're happy with that. Oh, you've met your functional norm for your age group. You're doing awesome. we'll discharge now. I can't justify any more medical necessity, and let them go off into the world. Life as usual. But all you did right there was got someone from sick to well. Now, wellness is a great term. It's a pretty popular term, but that is not necessarily the goal. That's what CrossFit is arguing. We want to get people to fit, because fitness, as they say, fitness is a hedge against sickness. The more fit you are, the less vulnerable you are to stressors. Now, if you listen to this podcast every Wednesday and you hear us talk about frailty, you've heard that phrase over and over and over again. One person that is frail is vulnerable to stressors. They are not a resilient human being. They lack reserve, functional reserve. The things that they are able, their full capacity is very close to the demand of things that they have to do on a daily life. So that's something that we've coined, the 1RM living. But that is a definition of frailty. That's in our wheelhouse in the Jerry PT world. But do we think about pursuing fitness? I don't think we do. I don't think we think about how functional and fit and strong and powerful can we get our patients and these individuals that we're working with to hedge against stressors, to make them less vulnerable, to make them more resilient, more robust human beings. And when I saw the similarities between how we talk about frailty and 1RM living and functional reserve, and then that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, they're almost the exact same thing. And it really gives me more motivation and more justification to pursue fitness, even if I'm a home health physical therapist, or even if you are working in the ICU, or even if you're like Jason that's in an outpatient setting. How can we pursue fitness? And that's something that is lacking tremendously, all across our profession. We focus on that back that comes in the door, and that back may be an important issue for that individual. But if we triage the full list of potential deficits or things that they may be at risk for now or down the road, that back may come in at third or fourth on the list compared to some other markers. So fitness is something that we need to pursue, and this is something that is not new to y'all. If you listen to this podcast, especially, for Mitch, he's talked about the REMOM, the every minute on the minute interval training in the rehab setting, that is a way that we can bring fitness into rehab. And going to this course really helped that click together for me as well, with the help of some of the people from the fitness athlete division. So fitness, I'm going to be pursuing that more and more now with my treatments, more than what I was before, just to see that it is so impactful and can improve the quality of lives of our patients. So the second thing that I found very interesting was the concept of threshold training and how they talked about technique. So technique, we highly value technique in our world, in the world of physical therapy. We may not know how to perform a proper deadlift or a squat. I'd argue a lot of PTs don't know how to do that, but we love technique. We want people to have that perfect form, especially if they're under load. But CrossFit does too. Like, they really hammer it on technique. They put a very high priority on technique, and that was something that was not ignored whatsoever during the course, even though in my mind I was thinking it was going to be ignored. So technique is highly, highly valued, but also what is highly valued is power output. So we want good technique, but we also want to be doing work. we want to increase people's work capacity, so we need to do work. So how do we have those intention of good technique and high power? Sometimes you can have them together, but a lot of times you may compromise on one or the other. And this is something that they talk about through the concept of threshold training. So they compared this to almost like handwriting or typing on a keyboard, is that when we're learning a particular skill, we're going slow. We're focusing on the technique. I'm just kind of going along, and every once in a while when I'm trying to push it and go a little faster, I'm going to screw up. I may hit that P when I'm trying to hit that O with my pinky finger, for example. Then I just slow down a little bit, make sure I got my technique in, and then I'll just push it a little faster again. And it's this constant flirting with that line of my threshold, to where I try and go faster. I'm going to make a mistake, but then I dial it back. And over time, your ability to increase the speed improves. And that's how they view weightlifting. So they are focusing on that technique. Let's say when someone's performing, power cleans, for example, from the ground, where they're bringing the barbell up into a front rack position. that they're focusing on technique. The load is pretty light, but they also want that speed to get that intended stimulus to increase their work capacity because they want to create work. So we go, speed it up. You may see a mistake. Well, let's give them a cue. If they respond to that cue, let's keep that speed up. If they don't respond to that cue and you try and get them to improve that technique, well, then we may need to dial back the intensity, whether we may slow down a little bit, whether we may take the load down, whatever we need to do to lower the intensity so that technique is maintained, but we also maintain that intended stimulus. So that was very helpful for me to hear them acknowledge we are going to make mistakes, and sometimes mistakes in technique are necessary to improve. And when we make mistakes with a particular movement and there is not heavy loads, things are likely going to be okay. and I think that's something that we all need to hear. When we see poor form with a particular, compound movement that is not under high amounts of load, it's going to be okay for the majority of our patients. It's our job to know for those patients who it's not going to be okay with. But I would say for the vast majority of the people that we're working with, mistakes in technique under low load is going to be fine. It's going to be a part of the learning process to be able to perform movements well and to do that while increasing speed, increasing, their work capacity, which is really helpful for me. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about. So that's the concept of threshold training that they talk about a lot in the course. The third thing that was very interesting and had me excited and really changed a lot of my perception of this organization was the focus on our impact as kind of movement professionals in how we can impact chronic disease in this country. This is something we talk about all the time on the podcast. But Jason Robinson's on here. He talked, when he got back from his level 1, he talked about how he couldn't tell if it was a CrossFit course or if it was an APHPT course. They were speaking the same language, saying the same things, having the same emphasis. And I would completely agree. I mean, they talked a lot about chronic disease, what we can do to impact people beyond exercise, like nutrition, like recovering, even connect and that community element. They talked about all the elements that you hear about on Monday with Mike Eisenhart. And that was just really encouraging. They also talked about, how can CrossFit increase its impact by being more inclusive, which has been a big critique of mine, is kind of that cult-like mentality and everyone dresses a certain way and acts a certain way, not very inviting for a lot of people. But they left the course, and this is what was interesting. They ended the course, which the end of a course or of a weekend is usually, you want that to be kind of a high note. You want to end with a bang, basically. You want something to be very profound, to be very powerful, because a lot of times people will remember what they leave with. And their very last words were talking about inclusivity, how we want to create an inclusive culture and environment to bring people into this group, because it can be intimidating. It's very, very intimidating to walk into the doors of any gym, but definitely a CrossFit box with a lot of the stereotypes that they have. But the training staff were encouraging everyone to be inclusive because we are wanting to broaden our impact, put a dent on the issue of chronic disease in this country. And we have to have a culture change to do that. And they are preaching that from up above. And now if it gets down into your local box, who knows? But I was just encouraged to hear them saying that. So that's what I liked. I really enjoyed the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, the concept of threshold training and how we think about technique and how mistakes are often necessary if we're trying to increase work capacity, but we need to make those mistakes, have low risk, basically. And then the emphasis on the culture shift. Now, the critique that I have, and this is something that I'm kind of struggling with. I see it's necessary, but also I see it as a big weakness, is now that I have my level 1 certificate, let's say I don't have a background in physical therapy. I never got an RKC certification. I never got my CSCS. Let's say I'm just someone that likes to lift heavy things and I took the certification. I can now go and start a CrossFit box legally. I can affiliate, which, other personal training or fitness professionals, they don't have a lot of legalities. They can open up shop. We've all seen this with people that probably should not be, teaching people to do pretty complex activities, that they're, have their own gym or have a big presence online and yada, yada, yada. I mean, we do want to get people moving, but it is kind of intimidating to think that someone can go and have 20 people doing multiple reps of these complicated, complex Olympic lifts under load. I don't know. I don't feel confident to do that right now. Some people may, but yeah, L1 you can open up a box. So I understand that if they make a higher barrier to entry, let's say you have to go through an L2 or an L3 to be able to open a box, CrossFit probably wouldn't be as big as it is now. It probably wouldn't have the impact that it has. So I know there's a lot to weigh there, but I would not say it prepares you per se to be able to open up a box and run a class, a big class in that CrossFit world. But that's just my opinion. So I'd like to hear your all's thoughts for those that have taken the L1. What are your thoughts? Jason, if you have time, right now or later on today, go ahead and put a comment in the Facebook post. For those that don't have your L1 but are thinking about it, throw your questions in there and I'll look at them. If you disagree with me and think, Dustin, you're an absolute idiot, this CrossFit is the devil, stay away as far as you can, then let me know because I'm kind of going into this with just trying to leave my biases behind. I've been a big critic of CrossFit for a long time and really starting to enjoy it and embrace that community. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah. It was a fun weekend, really fun weekend. And the best part is that we followed it up with the opening meeting with Modern Management of the Older Adults. We have a packed cohort this time. The next one's going to be in March, so I'm really excited for that. So I'm going to put some courses that are coming up in the comments below, but you can find all that information at ptonice.com. Get on the email list because we regularly send out what courses are going to be coming near you. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Talk with you soon.
Hit me. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, go to ptonice.com, click on the Courses tab, and check out Modern Management of the Older Adult. This is a course that myself and Christina Previtt are going to be teaching. It's 8 weeks, an online format, interactive, and solely focused on helping students change how they practice and how they work with older adults. For more information, just go to ptonice.com. Thanks.